Welcome to another edition of Office Hours with State Representative John Hampton. I am John Hampton. I'm thrilled that you could join me for another exciting episode. Today, my special guest is Bob Havens, who is a passionate, incredible advocate for our nation's beloved veterans. And I'm so thrilled to have you here today, Bob.
Thank you, John. Pleasure to be here.
Let's first start about your background, where you're from, and your military history.
Sure, be happy to. Born and raised in New Haven, Connecticut.
What section?
It's actually the Hill section in New Haven, up near the hospitals.
Yeah, my mom was born in Westville.
Oh, knew Westville very well.
St. Aidan's Church.
Absolutely.
Where she got married. And,
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's quite an area. I actually, in a later life, tended bar at the Cape Codder, which was a mainstay.
I remember going there as a child.
Great seafood.
And my mom went to what was the middle school? Sheldon? No, she went to Hill House.
Sheridan.
And she went to Hill House.
I went to Hill House.
Oh wow!
Yeah, graduated from Hill House.
Good
absolutely.
people.
Absolutely. The academics.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So tell me more about your childhood and.
Sure. One of three boys. My dad died when I had just turned 14 years old. I had two younger brothers, ages 6 and 3.5. So my mom was a widow at 36.
Wow.
Incredible woman, never remarried, and she is now 96.
Wow, what a blessing.
And doing great.
Terrific.
She really is. I think it makes you tough when you go through what she went through.
I bet. And,
wow. She's very resilient, and she's there for us still. So we're trying to make up for it now.
Yeah, you got to do that.
Went through the New Haven school system, and then went to, as I said, Hill House High School. Following high school I worked for about a year, and then that's when I joined the Navy. Always knew I was going to join the Navy because my dad was in the Navy, and we were together for a very short period of time. As I said, he died when I had just turned 14. And though he didn't talk a lot about his service, like most of us do not, I could tell it was a very, very important part of his life.
Was he World War II?
He was World War II, South Pacific.
Okay.
He was a gunner's mate on what was known as a heavy attack transport. And during the major battle of Okinawa, his gun that he was in charge of with 7 other men was actually hit by a kamikaze aircraft because that was a big push for the Japanese at that time. And 3 men were killed instantly. He was blown to the other side of the ship. Actually received the commendation, which I have at home, for keeping the gun firing right up to the point of impact, which those guys were amazing. And in my mother's wedding picture is my dad with a bandage on his hand. Wow. And I had asked her about it one day, and that's when I found out what happened and found the commendation.
Oh. So what year did you enter?
I went in 65.
Oh, wow.
I was working at the Connecticut Savings Bank at the time, and I was on a lunch hour. I was walking down in New Haven, and I saw the sign, Uncle Sam needs you, wants you. It was Navy. I said, this is a good time. So I walked up the stairs, and I signed up. A little funny story about that is when I talked to the chief, who was the recruiting chief, he wanted to tell me about all the various programs they had available. And at that time, they had a lot. They had a 2-year program, a 3-year program. They had something called a kiddie cruise, where when you went in, as long as you stayed in until you were 21, you got credit for 3 full years, even if it wasn't 3 full years. So I said at the time, no, my dad did 4 years in World War II. Now it's my turn. I want to do my 4 years. So Chief, just sign me up for 4 years. Number of years later, actually the night before I was getting married, we were sitting around the table reminiscing. And when I talk to kids, and I do a lot of things with kids on veterans, I tell them I wasn't too bright then either, because I found out that night that my father served 3 years, not 4.
Oh my gosh.
So I did 4.
And this was the backdrop of Vietnam?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
In 65. I was, when you go through bootcamp training, you are able to, if you were a high school graduate at the time, qualify for what they called an A school. And you made 3 choices. My first choice was something called photo intelligence, and I got it. So I went from boot camp to the Air Force Air Intelligence Training Command in Denver, Colorado, and that was all the branches of the service. Was trained in intelligence, photo intelligence, and intelligence. And from there went to a patrol squadron, But then the big day came when, as I complained a lot about, I have all these skills, I need to use them. Why am I sitting in Maryland? A Lieutenant JG walked in and said, okay, stop complaining, there's your orders. And they sent me to California. And I ended up with an outfit called Observation Squadron 67, or VO 67. Now, what was going on at that time is the Ho Chi Minh Trail, which was the main supply route for the enemy, the North Vietnamese, and coming right down through, most of it through Laos, Cambodia, and bringing supplies into Vietnam, which were killing our troops. Secretary of Defense McNamara at the time was against the bombing of Haiphong Harbor in North Vietnam. So he said, come up with another solution. Well, they came up with VO 67, Observation Squadron 67. What we ended up doing was planting electronic sensors from aircraft along the Ho Chi Minh Trail. And there were two types of sensors. One would be dropped from 500 feet, and they would actually hang on little parachutes in the triple canopy above the trail and pick up movement on the trail. The others would actually drop from 5,000 feet, penetrate the jungle floor. Antennas would pop up, but they'd be camouflaged as foliage. So from that, the truck kills, to sort of wrap this part up quickly, the truck kills increased 4 times. It was a very dangerous mission. We lost 3 aircraft within about a 6-week period toward the end of our time there, 9 men on each craft. The 3rd aircraft didn't lose all 9, they lost 2. And the commander of that aircraft stayed at the controls so the other 7 men could jump, which they did. They were rescued by the Air Force Jolly Green Giants, rescue choppers. And I tell you that story because that pilot was a man by the name of Commander Milius, who later on was elevated to captain posthumously. But there is right now, as we're sitting here, a USS guided missile destroyer called the USS Milius, commissioned in his honor, stationed in Japan.
Wonderful.
Yeah. The other thing we did as a clandestine operation, Observation Squadron was a cover. We wanted them to think we're just taking photographs. We actually helped the Marines at Khe Sanh. We have a special relationship with I believe it was the 26th Marines at Khe Sanh. They were trapped, one of the most famous battles of Vietnam. For sure, we're going to be overrun. And someone said, hey, you know what? We've got these crazy Navy guys dropping sensors over on the trail. Maybe they can help us out. So we came over, and we came in at times 50 to 100 feet off the deck, laying sensors all around anywhere that you can advance toward Khe Sanh. The results of that was the location of 20,000 North Vietnamese troops.
Wow.
Obviously, what happened from there is airstrikes were called in, and Khe Sanh was never overrun. The reason I tell you that story is the 26 Marines came home. President Johnson at the time awarded them the Presidential Unit Citation. VO 67 didn't exist. As a matter of fact, we did not exist for 30 years after we came home. We had all signed documents swearing not to talk about the mission. It was declassified in 1998. So we started finding each other on the internet in 1998. And then what happened 10 years after that, 40 years after the mission, we were contacted by Washington, and those of us who were left were invited down to the Navy Memorial in Washington, D.C., and VO 67 received the Presidential Unit Citation.
Wow.
40 years later.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your incredible service to our country.
Yeah.
And that hasn't stopped because you've been an advocate your whole life. Tell us about that, some of the ways you've been doing that.
Sure. I do lots of different things, like talking to kids or getting involved in the communities wherever I can. But I have 2 major missions, if you will. One is an organization called Resilience Grows Here, RGH. I know you're familiar with it. A number of people in the area may be familiar with it also. And RGH does a number of things. We do peer-to-peer counseling, meaning we will take veterans and train veterans to be peers with other veterans who may need help, because veterans talk to veterans. Veterans just don't come forward and start talking to anyone. One of the biggest pluses we have is we have a service dog. And there have been many times where a contact couldn't be made, but a service member will come over to the dog. And from that, we can open up a relationship sometimes. The other major program that we have is called QPR training. Now, QPR is suicide awareness training. I'm a certified suicide prevention trainer doing QPR. And what's happened with that is not only are we doing them for veterans, now very heavily involved with first responders.
So important.
Exactly. Schools,
Yep.
as teachers, administrators, as well as students from middle school on up. And I'm happy to say that the Resilience Grows Here is now a 501c3.
Great.
You know, we worked really hard to get that.
It's a hard thing to do.
And we got it.
Right.
And now what's great about that is not only the fact that we can hopefully raise some funds to help us bring our programs to more people, but we're not limited to just a small geographical area. You know, we can now go throughout the state and bring these services to veterans throughout the state. Resilience Grows Here came out of a grant from the Movember, that's with an M, Movember Foundation, given to the Farmington Valley Health District. An incredible lady who I think you probably know, Justine Ginsburg.
Yep.
Everybody knows Justine.
Yeah, she's terrific.
She developed it. She started it. She put it together with this grant. She's the engine that runs the machine. You know, we're all out there doing our bit, but Justine is the driving force. As a matter of fact, we'd rather work hard on what we're doing than have to face Justine if we didn't do a good job. So
She's a good commander.
she is. She's a dynamite, totally dedicated woman. Justine is Australian, as you may know, okay? However, about 2 months ago, Justine became an American citizen.
Wonderful.
Okay, so she now has dual citizenship.
And where's she based? Because she's at the health district office.
Yeah, out of Canton.
Okay.
The Farmington Valley Health District's
It's
main
in
office is in Canton, but we normally meet in East Granby when we have our monthly steering committee meetings.
Okay. But you have space in the health district, if you like, office space, if you will.
Justine works out of there.
Resources.
Yeah,
Okay.
Justine works out of there.
Okay. Is she work part-time for you and part-time for the health district?
It's all under the health district.
Just all under
it
the
all
health
is under
district.
the health district,
Okay.
right? So Resilience Grows Here is under the grant of the health district.
Okay.
We're in our final year of that grant, so we're working on hopefully finding other grants so that we can continue to work. In addition to those things, I want to mention to you, and excuse me for looking at my notes, but it's a little complicated because I just received it today. Last year, we did something called No Wrong Doors. No Wrong Doors is you may be familiar with it. We did it at Tunxus Community College. And it's to help college administrators, instructors, professors, to give them tools that they may need to work with veterans coming back into the education system. Folks who have been deployed. We're really a different kind of animal when we come back, and it's tough to get acclimated. As a matter of fact, the community colleges have what they call oases, and this is a good, safe place for veterans to be able to get together, a lounge kind of thing, but veterans can speak with veterans. I bring that up to you because we did one last year at Tunxus, which was tremendously successful. We're going to do 4 this year because other community colleges now want us to do the same thing. So we're going to do Tunxus again. We're going to do Asnuntuk. We're going to do Northwestern.
It's No Wrong Doors?
No Wrong Doors.
Okay.
No Wrong Doors. And some of the things we're going to be covering, topics will be VA benefits, the GI Bill, post-traumatic stress, and traumatic brain injuries. And we bring in experts in all of these areas to talk to folks about this. We're also going to offer QPR training, suicide awareness training. We're going to be talking about employment, financial things,
It's like one-stop shop.
sexual harassment.
Yep.
Right. And I have to say, I went to and took part in the one last year. I did a QPR training. The people from the VA and all the folks who came in to work with us on that last year, phenomenal. I mean, you're going to get all the experts under one roof. So I can, and get to you actually, if you'd like, I'll get you the dates. and where they're going to be held.
Sure.
And then you can get that word out.
I would be happy to.
Yeah,
and can people go on a website to find?
Yes.
Can you tell me? I'll put it on the screen.
Yes.
What is it?
Website would be www.resiliencegrowshere.org.
Okay.
Okay? And all of this is going to be on, it is on the site already.
So do you replace, I mean, for any veteran coming home, like, what's the first thing they do? Are you the receptacle really to start the process of acclimating? Because there really doesn't seem like you get off the plane and, I mean,
Yeah.
you just, especially if you don't have a family,
Yeah.
it must be brutal to really get back into a sense of normal. Obviously, for Vietnam, it was a whole different kettle of fish. But even now, it must be challenging, like you said, the job world and relationships.
Yeah.
And veterans probably have a special bond just with veterans. And
Exactly. That's a great question, and let me tell you why. Veterans coming home, if you haven't gone through the things they've gone through, it's hard to realize what that transition's about. But here's a good example. For, say, a year deployment or 9 months or whatever it happens to be, every single day you get up, you have one job. If you're in a combat area especially, is to either kill the enemy or do whatever you have to do not to get killed by the enemy. It's all survival. But there's no gray area. You know, you get up and you know exactly what you have to do that day. All of a sudden, as you said very well, they stick you on an airplane. You come back to the real world. And what now?
yeah,
All your support is gone. All your
structure.
Structure is, everything is gone. And one of the goals of Resilience Grows Here is there's an inherent problem with veterans. That is, veterans for the most part do not come forward. They just don't. They're tough. They can handle it on their own. They don't need help. So we do everything in our power to bring it to them.
Yeah,
You see what I'm saying?
I've heard that through, we have an American Legion group in VFW here in town, and it's predominantly made up of older veterans, and I know they've been challenged with really trying to get the younger vets in.
Correct.
Slowly they've been doing it.
Correct.
But, maybe
difficult.
it's just a different generation. I don't know with there are more responsibilities, but this sounds just like a terrific resource that people need to know about.
Yes.
Especially with mental health and the rate of PTSD and suicide is still so high, correct?
Yeah, suicide, the statistics you'll see all the time are 22 a day. That's not a real statistic because the 22 a day does not take into consideration reserves, and it does not take into consideration active duty. So that number is not on target. It's a lot worse than that. And the QPR training alone, if we can get that out to as many folks as possible, as of, and I could be off a couple on this number, but this started about 2 years ago with the QPR training. And as of, December, 46 lives saved through our QPR training.
Wow, thank God. Amazing.
46.
It's incredible.
And, Justine, again, put it so well over the holidays. She said she was at home with her family, and all of a sudden she thought to herself, wow, there's 46 families that have their loved one with them today that would not have been there.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Okay, and I'm sure that number is up now, but this was what it was in December, that we can document. People who have either attended and said, you saved my life, or people who have attended and went off and saved somebody's life through the training they got in QPR.
So how do people find out about you? Because nobody's at the gate with a brochure waiting for you.
No, it's the website. It shows like this.
Yeah.
Contact us anytime. Schools are learning more about us because we're so involved in the school systems. We're trying, again, to get the word out as much as we can, any way we can. This is one of the vehicles right here.
Yep.
And
but you have to go after more funding, right? You said you have to.
We certainly do, yeah.
So people can give money to you because
Yes.
you're a nonprofit
Exactly.
and you're going to go after more grants.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we're in the process of doing that already. As soon as we got our authorization, we started doing that.
Now, I know for a while you were looking to house possibly at the Kieran's Community Center. How is that?
From what I understand, that is not going to happen,
Okay.
sadly. And I think it has to do with being a bonding issue, I think. But, that whole community, that's another whole topic, but that community center would be not only helpful to veterans, but so many in the community. So if anyone has a building,
Yeah.
contact us. Again, www, okay?
How much space do you need?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you that, but I have the person who could tell you that, so I can get you connected. That would be Alicia Newton, and she could tell you what exactly they need. They have a whole group put together just to address that problem.
Okay.
And they have the breakdowns and the size of the rooms and capacity and staffing and all that.
And you do link up with the local VFWs and American Legions?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yes, definitely.
And you've mentioned working with young people. How does that work?
Well, for me personally, I do a lot in the North Haven area where I come from.
Yep.
Quinnipiac University has, actually I just heard from them today. We're doing our 16th one this year. They have a Veterans Awareness Day the Friday before Memorial Day. And we bring in 400 students to that. And that at Quinnipiac, it started in a little classroom. Now it's at Quinnipiac University in their large gymnasium. That has tables starting with the Civil War and going all through the wars, all throughout the room. The students actually visit all of those tables. They have some prepared questions, and it's interesting, most of the time they don't use them. They'll come to me, for instance, and each veteran, they can ask them what they did, what was it about. And I usually get things like, were you scared when you went away from home? Was it the first time you were away from home? Yes. Did you have a girlfriend? That's a big one. Yes. And I got a Dear John letter, like 90% of the guys on my, okay. And all the girls will say, oh, that's not right.
Yes.
But they would do the same thing, of course.
Yeah.
So that's a great program. And then Resilience Grows Here also works with the school systems in East Granby and Canton, I believe they are now. And they do a program working with every grade in the school to give them the tools they need to deal with bullying, respecting each other. And that's a great, successful program. I did a QPR training not too long ago at Miss Porter's School. And the reason we did that is they had a wellness day. So they had experts from all spectrums coming in talking about wellness things to do. It was an incredible experience for me, to tell you the truth. It was amazing because you would be surprised those are young kids, and you would be surprised at what they're carrying and dealing with and worried about. It was remarkable. It was a remarkable day.
How many veterans are coming home now? I mean, we forget, that more and more are just.
I don't have actual numbers, but usually the deployments are a year.
Yeah.
You just saw, I think last week, a group came back to Connecticut, right? They're coming back all the time. I mean, more are going over, but not as many as before. And they're coming back at all times.
Yeah.
So it never stops. One of the things that we, Justine in particular, got involved with recently was the crash of the B-17.
Yeah.
And working with first responders. I actually flew on that aircraft the year before.
Wow.
Yeah, it was on my bucket list. And a gentleman I work with, and I told him, I said, I'm going this year no matter what. He said, get 2 tickets, I'll go. So we went because I'm with another group, and we work with the Collins Foundation when they come in to Middlebury, and we set up a table and all that, and under the wing of the B-17, actually. We bring World War II memorabilia, we talk to the folks. And actually this year, I actually had lunch with that pilot and co-pilot 2 weeks before they crashed at Bradley, so hit home. But there's so much need that veterans have, and probably the thing I'm saddest about in this work is that I can't get to enough of them.
Yeah.
personally. I mean, I always have folks saying to me when we do QPR, why haven't people told us about this? Mm-hmm. Why isn't there more of this? And all I can say is we're doing our best.
Yeah.
We're trying to get to as many folks as spread the word. You spread the word. Tell folks, you know.
So that's ways people can help you, donating money.
Mm-hmm.
I think people really appreciate what our veterans have done, like yourself, but all the new folks coming home and their families,
Mm-hmm.
you know, supporting their families. Is that part of your work?
It is. It is. We work a lot with the 103rd over at the base, and both for the troops and for their families, and especially when troops are deployed and supporting the families that are left behind.
Because that's a real stressor, too.
I learned something at that No Wrong Doors last year when I heard spouses of deployed veterans talk, because I never myself thought about what it is they go through, trying to keep a job, having to leave their job because now they have to take care of their kids again. You know, it's phenomenal what the support, one that they give, but that they need. It's something we just don't think about because we mostly think of the troops.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know where we are on time. Do we have time?
We have a couple of minutes.
Okay, I just want to quickly mention to you the SGU that I mentioned to you. SGU stands for Special Guerrilla Units. This is an extraordinary group of people, patriots, who during the Vietnam War, they're Laotian Hmong, Hmong, which is also Laotian, but is a tribal faction of the Laotian population. They were hired by, trained by, and paid by our CIA. 90% or more of their work was behind enemy lines. There is a gentleman in Connecticut, General Sar Fudatak, who is in charge of that group. And I bring it up, and I have to do it quickly, I know. I'm bringing this up for two reasons right now. One, to let the public be aware that after 44 years, last year, a committee working with SAR and his people, when working with legislators like you, were able to get the Hmong Laotians the right to be buried in a state military cemetery at Middletown.
Wonderful.
In 2018, a law was passed federally for federal cemeteries. That, by the way, put Connecticut on the map as the first state in the nation to allow these folks, to set up a policy for these folks to be buried in the state. Our big mission now, huge, and it's going to be a lot harder, is because it's going to take federal legislation, is these folks are denied VA medical benefits. Now, just to put it in a quick nutshell, they lost over 50,000 people killed. I personally have met a number of their POWs who were POWs for more than 20 years. And on top of all of that, in helping us, they rescued over 300 American pilots shot down. After all that, they lost their entire country. Gone. They can never go back to Laos. It's now communist. So if you see anything related to the SGU or any way folks out there can support any bills coming forward to try to help these folks get their benefits.
Is there a place for folks to learn more about it, a website?
Right now there is, and I don't have it with me. I did not bring it.
You'll get it to me, and we'll put it on the screen for folks to email that to me.
That will be great. And in the interim, they can also do it through Resilience Grows Here, because they'll pass it along to me.
Terrific. Bob, thanks so much. I am so grateful that you came on the show, and hopefully we'll get some more awareness raised and funding for the great work that you do. Thank you for your service to our country and the work that you continue to do on behalf of all our veterans. Please count on my support, and come back another time. We'll talk some more. Yeah, that means a lot, John. I thank you so much, and your support is just so necessary. Great to see you, sir. Thank you, sir, very much. My pleasure. Happy New Year. You also. Happy New Year to everyone else at home. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Office Hours with State Representative John Hampton. Until next time, bye-bye.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.